Welcome. Today is Thursday, December 11th, 2025. It's 1:30 p.m. We are at 19 Parnell Street. This is a special council agenda for today. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Resolution, please.
Be it resolved that the Council of the Township of Greater Madawaska calls to order the December 11th, 2025 special council meeting at 1:30 p.m.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Thompson, second by Counselor Tripp. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. 2.1, approval of agenda. Resolution, please.
That the agenda of the special council meeting of December 11th, 2025 be approved as presented.
Do we have a mover? Counselor Levesque, second by Counselor Popke. All in favor? So carried. Thank you. Is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or the general nature thereof? There is none seen. Thank you. We'll now move on to 4.1, 2026 budget deliberations. And I believe, Jen, you'll be taking us away on that one?
I sure will. So I have a presentation I'm going to put up on the screen here for us all to follow along. But today's meeting is the 2026 draft budget presentation summary recap. Just bear with me for a moment, technical difficulties. It was working, just a moment. Oh, there we go. All right. So the 2026 draft budget was presented to Council on November 20th, 2025, with a proposed 4.72 municipal tax rate increase. This increase was designed to fund community growth, align with strategic goals, and strengthen contributions to reserves. So our strategic alignment and the key budget highlights presented. So the key highlights of how the budget has been carefully drafted with our operational demands and long-term strategic goals are summarized below. Under sustainable and responsible growth, we modernize and streamline processes with the replacement of the township's computer server. We continue regulation of short-term accommodations. We're developing a Calabogie secondary plan and the implementation of a community improvement plan. Under our strategic goal of improving the health and well-being services offered to residents to align with community needs, and we have a continued contribution to the Health Services Reserve to prepare for future needs. We're continued the implementation of the Seniors Active Living Center, and we're expanding recreation programs across the township. And under efficient and effective governance, we're responding to and planning for future infrastructure needs by increasing our contributions to reserve for capital infrastructure. We've developed a contribution to an election reserve to plan for future election expenses to reduce the impact on the tax levy in 1 year. And we created a contribution to reserves for positive assessment growth to help fund future operating and capital expenses. So just a recap of our 2026 municipal pressures. So the township is facing several financial pressures for the 2026 budget. These included an increased contribution to infrastructure, specifically for the funding gap, mandatory fire regulations, increased operating expenses, decreased building permit revenues, increased insurance costs, and increased debenture expenses, and the no reassessment of CVA. To fully understand the municipal tax revenue impact, so when considering a tax rate increase, it's important to recognize that a 1% municipal tax rate increase provides the township with revenues of $46,525. I'm going to recap our residential municipal tax rate comparison to those of our neighbors that are comparators. So you'll see that Greater Madawaska is still with the new 2026 rate compared to 2025 neighboring. We're still in the lower bracket. This is a result of a larger current value assessment area. So our 2026 draft budget summary presented on November 20th presented a total operating budget of $7,782,408, a total capital budget of $1,436,136, a total levy requirement of $4,888,849, resulting in a municipal tax rate increase of 4.72%. For those that are public that's signing on today online, how does a 4.72 municipal tax rate affect ratepayers? So an assessment, a house assessed at, or property assessed at $200,000 would have an annual increase of $48.01. Going to a house that has an assessment value of $600,000, it would be an annual increase of $144.04 for a $12 a month increase. So since our last meeting, there's a couple minor draft budget updates. Following the initial presentation, updated current value assessment data from MPACT increased the taxation revenue by $32,242. Our public works winter maintenance, so winter control costs increased substantially in 2025 due to an extended spring season, and an early on have increased the 2026 winter sand and salt budget by $32,242. A small increase to reflect the change in costs funded through the updated CVA, so there's resulting in no change to the municipal tax rate. Under policing costs, on December 5th, the township received confirmed 2026 policing costs. The final amount of $810,967 aligns with staff's original estimate, which had included an 11% increase over the previous year. We've added a gravel rolling rehabilitation program. So during 2025, gravel road conditions were impacted by rapid fluctuations between warm and cold temperatures, particularly late this fall. These changing conditions caused the roads to become rough, and once the ground began to freeze, grading was no longer possible. The quick shifts in weather also reduced the effectiveness of regular maintenance. So to manage these conditions, staff placed additional gravel on the most problematic sections. This increased usage substantially depleted the township's gravel inventory. So to ensure adequate supply for 2026 and future years, the township will need to crush additional material. Bulk crushing provides the most competitive pricing, so the township plans to crush 20,000 tons of gravel in 2026 with an anticipated 5,000 tons required for use during the year. As a result, $65,000 has been added to the 2026 capital budget and 2026 10-year capital forecast as a rolling rehab for gravel. $65,000 has been drawn from the reserves to fund this capital. So just to recap the summary of changes, there was an additional revenue added to our taxation revenue of $32,242 from updated CVAs. Increased expenses for winter sand and salt, $32,242, funded by the additional revenue received from above. We added a new line for rolling rehab, $65,000 gravel for the 2026 capital budget and for the 10-year capital forecast. And there's a reduction to reserves for 2026 up to $65,000 to fund the 2026 rolling rehab. So the amended budget presented increased the total operating budget by those figures. So the operating budget now presented is $7,814,650. The total capital budget is $1,501,136, and the total levy requirement is $4,921,091. So the municipal tax rate increase remains at 4.72%. We're going to recap our reserve contributions. This is a positive area for the municipality. We've increased our contributions by $166,387 for a total contribution to reserves of $769,226 for 2026. Under our debentures, we will be taking on one more debenture in 2026 in the value of $461,785 So our total debt will be $4,679,689. This fully aligns with our 10-year financial forecast. A summary of a reserve and reserve fund schedule for 2026 with our estimating opening balances, our contribution to reserves, and our capital and operating utilized for an ending balance of $1,712,114. At the November 20th, 2025 meeting, Council was invited to submit additional questions regarding the budget. All questions and corresponding staff responses have been compiled and are attached to the report presented today. If the public is watching, the agenda package is online to see those questions and answers. So throughout the year, there were several potential projects not currently included in the township-based budget or 10-year financial forecast that were just conversations that came up. These additional capital requests have been outlined for Council's consideration along with their financial implications. So we had the items to consider. We had Kennelly Mountain guide rails of an estimated cost of $100,000, municipal tax rate impact of 2.15%. Griffith light poles, there would be 3 of them required for an estimated cost, municipal tax rate impact of 1.29%. And we have digital signage. The signage is $35,000 to $45,000 per sign, a 0.75 to 0.96% municipal tax rate increase. And the dock expansion to Madawaska Street, estimated cost $29,500 for a 0.63% municipal tax rate increase. With that said, I'll open the floor to discussions if Council wants to have a conversation about these requests.
Thank you. Any questions, comments, concern, discussion items from Council? Councillor Levesque.
For the 2 items on that list, one was sorry, it's gone now.
Well, Kennelly Mountain, Griffith light pole, digital signs, and the dock expansion?
The dock expansion. I just wanted to kind of highlight that during discussions with both Jen and Renee, it was explained to me, it seemed really high to me, because all I was initially talking about was one length of dock, which would be like 8 feet, and it turned out to be $29,000, and it turned out that it's much deeper there at that spot, so it required a floating dock. So the thought then was to come back and wait till the report was back about the secondary plan, and then roll that into any changes to any dock at that point in time. So just kind of follow up on that. And as far as the digital signage, I would like to raise a motion to Council to request that staff put together a feasibility study and plan to implement digital signage starting in the 2026 year, which could mean a pilot project scenario in the first year and then move on to something greater. And again, that could also roll into the secondary plan and whatever funding may come from that. So what I would envision, and again, this is up to staff to come back with a proposed plan, there would be a pilot scenario to determine the feasibility of digital signage, what it would look like, what the plan would look like, the cost implicated, the funding requirements and potential funding sources, including sponsorship and those kinds of things. So I think an overall plan would be helpful rather than just request digital signage with a vote and determine what it would actually look like, and people then, I guess the next council then would vote on whether it's something that they want to move forward with. But I will also say, certainly in the last couple of weeks, we've been in various public meetings, and communication across the township continues to be a challenge. We do communicate to our constituents in various ways. We have Facebook, email, hard copy mail, you name it, and people still cannot seem to get the information that we're looking to get to them. And I do believe that digital signage is an effective way to get the message out to those people, but it also conveys everything from emergency information to various other information, program information, notifications, and so on. And I think it's a really quick and effective way to get information to people when they're driving by or walking by, wherever the signage may be. So I just want to put that on the table because I think it's been something that I've been pushing for since day one. And I think it's just a really effective way. And it certainly isn't because everybody else is doing it. I think partially that everybody else is doing it because it's effective. And it's just one more thing that can be done. And I do know that the communication plan that was just implemented or reviewed and resubmitted and re-implemented a few weeks ago has some information in it which may also help in terms of a potential application that would go with that as well. So that's all I have.
Thank you. So are you posing this as a notice of motion that you're going to bring up at the next meeting and have a written notice out for us with background? Like, or do you want to put the motion on the table?
This is a question.
But we need a better recommendation. More structured recommendation. And that's why I'm thinking maybe if we do this as a notice of motion and then you compile it as I don't know, somebody can help as well as get the recommendation exactly what, to frame it, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can turn that over to Renee because I know we have discussed what the plan forward would be.
So the idea behind it was it's something that's been brought forward as part of the budget process. Right now, we're working on a 2026 work plan. So if council, Mayor, if you'd prefer it to come as a notice of motion, then we would add it later on. If council was willing to add it as a direction, then you just do direct staff to do a feasibility study and add it to the 2026 work plan, and then I would add it to the work plan. So
I'll leave it at the discretion of Councillor Levesque. It's on how you want to approach it.
If I did draft something, but it's probably not complete. But it's not that complicated. But I can put what I said into something that's more.
For the motion, would only you would only be required to direct staff to add it to the 2026 work plan feasibility study for digital signage. You don't need just so then we know that in council can vote on it to add it to the work plan.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would like to move forward with that then to direct staff to come forward with an item for the 2026 strategic work plan to focus on a feasibility study and plan for digital signage starting in 2026.
You have moved that. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Thompson. I think the background has been stated, so, Councillor Tripp.
Thank you. So as part of this, I'm assuming there's no cost involved in the feasibility study. This is just internal, we wouldn't be engaging external people in this. I'm just looking at the numbers for any cost associated with it.
So it would be time associated with it. We wouldn't go out for a feasibility study for the digital signage unless council would be wishing to do so. The only adjustment would be is how we bring it forward. So, in the work plan, we have the priorities set by the communication strategy. So we would most likely focus it on that following that implementation in the year. But other than that, it's staff time.
Thank you. Yeah, supplemental?
So would we, this is going to be internal, so it should be fairly easy and simple to do, and it is a good idea. I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to connect back, because this had been part of this community survey we did a few times. I'm not sure if we did a second round, but do we have any other products going out to the new year that we could attach this to as well, in terms of community input? Or would that be part of the feasibility study?
Just vote on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I think what you're saying is in that study, you would like to see any results of a previous survey okay, all right. But that's a scope, that's part of the whole scope, I think. Okay, so if there's
It just lends credibility to the motion.
Okay,
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, comments, concerns, discussions, items at this time? And clerk or CAO, have you recorded what the recommendation actually is? Okay, thank you. We'll call for the vote then. All in favor? That is unanimous, so carried. Okay, now, any other questions, comments, concerns for Jen? No, not Jeff, for our treasurer, sorry, my apologies.
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Thompson.
On the light poles for Griffith, I asked about it. Why is it $60,000 to put 3 lights up on the highway? And I don't know if you want to answer it, since you're the one who told me the answer.
Leonard.
Or you
Yes.
can.
So I looked into with Ontario Hydro, the poles that are there right now won't contain the lights that on the pole. The poles aren't strong enough. So in order to do it, they have to replace the poles with fiberglass poles. And that's the quote they gave us to replace the poles, to put these light standards on these poles. There was another option of putting other light standards in, but we'd have to get power supply, dig trenches, underground wire, and it comes about the same kind of cost of just because of the location of the areas where these light poles are. So that's why the price has gotten so high.
Thank you. I just thought people should know that we're not crazy.
Yeah,
And that's it. Thanks.
thank you. And actually, I saw the gentleman up in Griffith that brought this to my attention, asked me about the lights for safety about a year ago, and I had a conversation with him and had this discussion on the costing of it as well. So he's aware that he had brought it to my attention, and we did follow up, and he was quite shocked at the costing, and I said, well, that's the hydro poles, I guess. Supplemental to this, or?
So, yeah, so just on that, so what happens now? We've got what we find is a really high cost, so now we just stop, or do we do one next year and one the year after? Like, how do we move forward with it or not, ever?
I would personally say in my past life, when I was in the energy sector, in dealing with hydro, that sometimes when you go back to them after a while, the price drops, and sometimes it doesn't. So I'm assuming Leonard's had conversation and knows the people, and maybe we can do a follow-up with hydro or not, but sometimes they just won't move on it if they want us to replace old infrastructure for them.
Yeah.
Now, there is an option we can put one to start with, which wouldn't be as expensive on Church Street. That's an area that we can maybe do one there for between 10 and 15,000, but the other two are the ones that are quite expensive to do.
And where are the other locations?
The other locations are at Madawaska Road and Highway 41. And the other locations at, what is that road that goes down with Little Park?
Madawaska.
Highland Creek.
Road and 41.
So either side of the bridge?
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
So one at Madawaska Road and one at Church Street. You're talking about the Church Street,
The Church Street that goes into to the subdivision.
because
Yeah.
it goes into you. Okay,
Oh, yeah,
so it's-
sorry, no, the one actually, there is no pole right at the one at the general store, so the only spot where there is a pole is at Church Street where it comes out closer to the community center.
Not near the general store?
Yeah, no, not near
Okay,
the
because
store,
it's, so we're not concentrating
No,
too-
no.
I think since the general store has a light on the sign, for the gas station, there is a little bit of light there. So if I was going to put a priority, the Church Street one is also closer to the community center, where it's the visibility there. You can, to make a left turn into the driveway, you're not quite sure where the driveway is. So that would be a priority if we could get that one in.
On Church Street?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Church Street,
and, the one closest to, the Church Street closest to the community hall.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
if we
can
could possibly
look into
do
that one more and get a better price for that, just that one for
Yeah.
now, and we start there, and then go from
Yeah,
there.
which side of the road is the,
It would be on the intersection side.
Church Street side.
on the
Church Street
Church
side,
Street?
Church and
Okay.
41.
Yeah, there's a
Church
pole
and
right there as you turn in, there's a pole on
Okay.
the left.
Yeah, I think, and where were the third one? Where were you looking at for the third?
Well, the other two were the two on each side of the bridge on
Oh,
41.
yeah, okay, okay, so yeah, if we could set that as a priority, because the community center, we had a meeting recently, and it was dark, and people were coming with flashlights to get to the community center when they live next door.
Yeah,
You know what it's like.
Yeah, we had the one big light we put in the parking lot that lights
Yeah.
up really well there.
But so you know where the building
Yeah,
is,
mhm.
but not where the
Where the
driveway
intersection
is.
yeah.
And, you know, if anyone tripped and fell.
Okay.
Anyhow, that would be good, thank you.
Okay. Counselor Tripp?
Thank you. So the 4 items that we had, we've got I'm assuming our rate right now is at 4.72, excluding those. So when we're talking about adding these things in, not the sign, because the signage is just R&D work that we're going to do next year, that would kick in the year following. So right now we're sitting at 4.72 at the municipal table. We also need to consider variables outside of our control, like the education tax, as well as the county. And county is I think, something that in future years is going to be more challenging for us because of the scope of county. And we just have our mayor's voice at the table, so we're one vote, and we don't have a lot of influence in that rate. But that rate could grow, which, while we're holding strong here, we may be vulnerable to growth outside of our control. The 4.72 is a really good number. The budget is really strong. We're contributing to reserves, but we've also taken 65 out of reserves for the gravel road. Adding a light is another point. Adding the 3 lights would be another point, so that would put us at 5.72. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah.
And then we have the really hard question of what can we afford, keeping our rates low, not knowing what we're going to have from a county rate, and with revenue decreasing from our builds and our income from that level. I think a year of being really fiscally prudent is something we need at this table to keep our eyes on and keep our rate as low as we can at 4.72. If we do 1 light, that would bring us over 5, correct? If we did 1 at 20?
It would just bring us slightly
To
over
5.
5, yeah.
So these are hard questions, and it's a very difficult year because we have uncertainties. We have uncertainties in the revenue decrease in building, which may become, and over the next few years, we're in a very unusual term of global finance. We've got other pressures that are coming on us. Anything we can do at this year at this table to keep us as lean as possible, unless it's an absolute necessity, and I would suggest 1 light might be, because we know how dark that is, but anything else we can do to keep our numbers low and try to stay, the 4 things on the list were nice things, and I really support and agree Councillor Levesque's comment around the dock. It is something I think we need, but let's make that as part of the bigger picture when we get into the waterfront development and the study around the greater area. I'm just cautioning our discussions here to try to stay as strict as we can to the 4.72. Certainly not in light of the fact we don't know what's coming from county yet in terms of what their rate is going to be. And county down the road, I had the privilege of standing in for our mayor when he was off, and made a point not to engage in policy or to participate, but to listen. And it was a real eye-opener in terms of how they operate and their funding. And a number of their core activities are funded from large grants from the province, which are subject to change. And if they change, which could happen in these economic times, we could see a shift at county in terms of them managing and having to have higher rate increases in the coming years, which is out of our control. So again, we really need to stick close to our number here because we have no control other than 1 vote at that table. So that was just my narrative around trying to stay at the 4.72 as close we can for this 2026 year. And then in 27, we'll have a better handle on what the trends are in development fees, as well as other rates that we can have. But this is a good budget, and a lot's been put into the reserve, and I would hate to see us reduce our ability to put into reserves for projects that are current for this year that we could push on for another year. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion items? Councillor Thompson.
I think we're pretty much doing that. We're trying to keep it as low as we can. And the idea of choosing what's necessary. And as you say, I think 1 light in Griffith, 1 street light in that whole western, I think there's 1 in Madawaska right now, so that's 2. I don't think that's going to push anybody over the edge. You know, I think it's a necessity. So if we could include that in the budget, I would, you know, based on a quote that you can get. If it comes to less, that's great.
That would
Thank
put
you.
us around 5. Do we have,
Just a second. Is this a supplemental to? Okay, thank you, Ben.
so that would put us closer to 5. Do we have any advanced knowledge or thought around what the county level may come back in at?
Not at this time. Counselor Hopkey.
So in this budget for 2026, we have a thing for a $20,000 for a side-by-side for the rec department. I don't personally see that as a necessity. We've gone years without one. Why do we need one now? Can we not take that $20,000, put it towards something like putting the one pole in, shuffle some things around, you still maintain your 4.72%, and you make progress up there and call it your uncle.
Yep, thank you. I'll have the CAO take this.
I'm going to let the manager explain, because it's not a new purchase necessarily.
So the side-by-side is the estimate on the asset management plan to be replaced, the snow machine for the Nordic ski trails for setting the tracks. So we could replace the snowmobile, but the group would prefer a side-by-side with tracks, with a winch and a cab for doing the trails. So the 20,000 is to purchase the side-by-side, and then the trade-in of the snow machine or the sale of the snow machine would cover the cost of the tracks. And that would be mainly used for the winter time for the ski trails, and then it would be used in the summertime for my staff to maintain the walking trails, to do the tree clearing and brush trimming and stuff. Because as of now, we have to hike with chainsaws up those trails, which is quite a distance. And for safety issues, we need to have a piece of equipment that we can get guys in and out if something ever happened. So it's going to be used for two departments. And it's an asset management replacement item to replace a snowmobile.
Thank you. Any, Counselor Tripp?
Just taking that to the next step then, is there an ability within the budget, assuming we want to go with the light at 20,000, is there an ability to do that and find a $20,000 saving in the existing budget that would keep us at the 4.72?
Thank you. I'll let the CAO.
When you look at it, what we want to be clear is that over the years, we've been really diligent with our budgets, and I would be careful on finding internal slight savings that might be $20,000, and it doesn't seem like much, but impacting the financials in the end. But if council wishes for us to go back to the table and look at the operating, there could be impact on levels of service or changes in that one.
Supplemental, Counselor Thompson.
We don't know the amount of overage, the money we won't be needing for the police budget, right? We don't have that money? Do we have it?
Treasurer?
So the funds that we set aside last year, the 129,000 was put into a levy stabilization fund. So this is to stabilize the levy requirement for operating expenses that incur throughout the year. So it's more of to stabilize the impact of any.
You want to reword your question?
Yeah, I was, Councillor Tripp had said there was going to be a surplus from the policing board.
So you're considering the surplus of the 2025?
Yes, 2025, that we might be able to apply. Is it going to go back into inventory?
So we don't have the value for the surplus for the 2025 police board budget?
Yeah, so there has nothing been informed to us, so we can't build that into the budget at this time. So right now, the budget has been created, and like we in the initial presentation, line by line analysis, evaluating trending meaning our history of the expenses over the last couple of years, market stabilities, and operational demands. So the budget presented it's fairly tight as it is. We presented with what we expect is going to happen. We can sure go back to the table and look for efficiencies, but we've done that due diligence already, but we could always take a second look if that's.
I'm just saying, if we approve this, it turns out to be 5 point, something for the overall budget, and then we get that surplus that we can use. Do we change the tax? Do we have time to change the tax levy?
So what you would do there, it depends on, you could say that you would only want the project to proceed based off of available funding from the 2025 surplus. You wouldn't include in the 2026 budget in that way. We come back to council and we allocate surplus, so there's that opportunity. And then I do want to talk to also the piece of recognizing the impact of county and school board on the resident here for tax rate, but also recognizing that we don't keep those funds. So when the county is raising those funds, it's for their operations and their residents may not feel it. So just consider that when we're looking at projects and items that are necessary for us as a township to operate.
I'd also like to add, we did receive confirmation last night from the province that the education rates remain unchanged for 2026. So they will be not increasing. However, there's been no indication to the county, from the county yet of what their rates will look like.
Okay, so how do we decide this now, about whether we get a light?
So there's a few options. You have, going back to Councillor Levesque. For these items, you can choose to add some to the long-range capital forecast. You can direct us to apply them to the forecast for 27, 28, whatever that looks like. So there's that option too for future. Do they go away? Do they not go away? Is I think where you were heading with that. And then the other option is you may direct staff to review the opportunity to put one light at that one intersection, and then we'd come back and then we'd find the funding source later based off those discussions, and it would not be part of the 2026 budget.
Councillor Popke.
I guess I have a question for Leonard. You were talking to Hydro about the price of the poles?
Yes, I had to put in the request form to Hydro, so they come in, they did an inspection of the poles. Then they come back and they said that the poles were not strength enough to support streetlights, that they would have to replace the poles, and the poles would have to be replaced with the fiberglass poles. So he came back with a price of $60,000 to do the poles. And then he said there is another option, I could have a contractor put in separate poles somewhere in the ditch, but then you'd have to run trenches, you have to bury wires, connect to a power source and all that sort of stuff. So it works out to about the same price in the end, going both ways. But if we were going to do it, we probably would put our own poles in so we could put it in the exact location we want, but we're still looking at a higher cost.
So you look at the poles at like the community center here and whatnot, they're old wood poles.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just go on by what I'm being told by their hydro inspector, and I got the emails and the quotes from them, and that's where we're at right now, unless we
Did
want to
you
put our own
talk to
poles in.
Raymond Crosby from Timber Ridge?
I spoke with the gentleman I use right now from Douglas that does all our stuff for poles for us, Bruce. Yeah, so he's giving me a price on some stuff for lighting and that, but then he can't put a light pole on that post until Hydro replaces that actual pole.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Councillor Levesque.
Just a question, well, I guess a question for you around the item for the fluctuating, I guess, building permit thing. It comes up, I wouldn't say frequently, but every time we talk about finance, the question comes up. And the anomaly around COVID. I'm just curious if there's a way for us to not eliminate that question, but how do we report a longer trend so that we can say, on a 10-year average, we had 50 permits issued. It goes up and down 10%. And if it's beyond 10%, then there might be a question around that, and how do we respond to that? Rather than the question come up all the time as to how are we going to recover, which is an item that we can never predict how many we're going to get.
So what we have is the anomaly this year is purely around building across, I mean, Canada probably is down. The revenue we have at the building permit fee is not the COVID value. The COVID value was much higher. This is our norm. So the average is our norm, is what you're seeing there. We're bringing it down from our norm. So, so that's your difference. So I think we need to clarify that the difference is not due to the anomaly of COVID versus currently this year was a really bad year for development everywhere. And so the other years pre-COVID and following COVID is what we do use for how do we budget.
Okay.
And we do use a value that's conservative.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns, discussion items? Okay, just looking at the draft budget overall, I thank you so much for the way you've presented it and the amount of work that you've put into it, and making it easy for us to go through. And I know, like, so it's been, excuse me for 1 second. So the public's been able to view this as well, and I just wanted to ask you a question more for the public. And I think I've run this by you already. Where is it here? Oh, just for, when the public's reading this, and it says to reflect trending, and that my read on that, to reflect trending, is these are the overall costs are going up, or the overall costs are going down for a specific item. And is that what is meant by when you reflect trending? Is that within our budget?
Not necessarily. So trending, to reflect trending is basically our averages, like what we normally expect to incur on a year. When you're looking at previous years, you can kind of get an idea of where you're going to be in line, unless there's a major shift in market conditions, in which then we would say because of increased costs. If we know that a line is fairly stable and it's just that the expenses averaging to increase, then it's as per trending. However, if there's a sharp market increase in a particularly good or service, then we'll say for increased costs.
Thank you. For the public, but educating me too at the same time, so thanks. Now, the 4 items that are listed, the Kennelly Mountain, Griffith Light Pole, digital signs, dock expansion. We've covered the last 2, dock expansion with secondary plan, all part of that. The digital signs is going back to staff for an investigation on that. And then we come to the Griffith light poles and Kennelly Mountain guardrails. And we have not addressed the Kennelly Mountain guardrails. And I'd just like to get Steve's input, if you could, on Steve, what is the status of Kennelly Mountain safety-wise? I mean, people have been going up there for years, and it's always been the same. But is something eroded, or is there something urgent about getting the guardrails at Kennelly Mountain for safety reasons?
To me, it's it's been like that for number of years, but now there's more people living up there, and that's where the concerns are coming from. Well, you counselors have probably gotten the calls and the messages about it. For safety reasons, we had one incident where a dump truck ended up in the ditch up there, but he met a vehicle and was going too fast and got over, and it is, I don't know if he still with guardrails would have solved that issue either, because he probably would have just went through the guardrails. But we've tried every other option. You know, I would have liked to have just hauled some rock up there and filled that ditch in and have it not so deep of a ditch, but the ministry have already said that's not an option because they classify that as a creek, not a ditch, when there's no water in it all summer anyway, but we got to follow their rules, and so that's not an option. So the only other option we could do is put some guardrail in there. I don't think it's a drastic measure that needs to be taken right away, but I'm sure there's other people that have different comments on that.
Well, you are our expert in the room, and I trust your judgment.
It's going to leave less room for us to do work up there. Like, we plow that with a tandem truck. He's going to be able to fit through, but it's going to be tight. It's going to pose some. But there's mountains on each side of this road. There's nothing, we don't own the property, we can't dig, we only own the road, the ditch, that's,
Yeah.
we're down to very minimum options.
Okay, thank you. Then we're just moving on. One thing I just wanted to bring up is the Griffith light poles. I would definitely like to see one at Church Street, the second church, I can't remember. I guess I'm going west there or north there. I can't remember the road bends. Anyways, I'd like to see us to figure out possibly getting that pole in, but I'd also like to not diminish discussions with Hydro to see if we can get it, if we could get the other two in cheaper. So I don't know, do we need direction to staff for that one? That's how it would go. So I'd like to put on the table to direct staff to investigate, or what's the word I'm looking for? Explore options, thank you. The other Rob helped me out on that one. Explore options for the 3 light poles at Griffith to see, priority would be the Church Street one. If we can get that in, that'd be great, because that's a dark stretch of road right there. And as you said, it does go into a subdivision, so that's the only way out there. So that would be great, but I'd also like to direct staff to see if we can get a better price, see if we can do it. So why doesn't the CAO sum up my words for me?
I think you're going to try to direct staff to, explore the options for putting in or installing 3 Griffith light poles and reporting back to council. And then it will give us the opportunity to look at the costing and all those options altogether.
Okay, and I will move that. And do we have a seconder? Councillor Tripp? Councillor Levesque? Questions or? Oh, all in favor? You were just being overzealous. All right, thank you. Is there anything further that our CAO or our treasurer wishes to say on the draft budget at this time? No? And is there any other questions from council? And this was on our list as an information package. So I thank you for that.
So I have a continued slide with what our next steps will be.
Okay.
So I'll have Robin bring that back up on the screen.
All right.
Can you move to the next screen, please, Robin? I'll stop pushing buttons. Okay. So our next step, so if council is satisfied with the proposed budget, a bylaw will be presented at the December 18th, 2025 council meeting, regular council meeting. However, if council wishes to make any changes, we will update the budget and bring it forward to a special meeting of council.
So to summarize it, it seems that at this point, we're looking at point 1. Council, it seems that you're looking to stay with the 4.72% and to proceed with the motions. I just clarifying for staff the motions that are provided. And otherwise, we're not requiring another meeting to discuss. Is that correct?
Is that all understood by everybody? Yep. Okay. So, thank you very much. Well, we can hardly wait till December 18th now. It's our Christmas present before Christmas. We are now at 5.1, enter into closed. Resolution, please.
That the council meeting of December 11th, 2025 enter into closed session at 2:20 PM pursuant to section 2932 of the Municipal Act regarding a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land by the municipality, specifically a unopened road allowance along Street Lane.
Thank you. Do we have a mover? Councillor Popke, second by Councillor Thompson. All in favor to go into closed? That is unanimous, so carried. Thank you. We are in closed.